Right now, somewhere in your kitchen, there's a carton of milk. You probably don't think twice about it. You pour it into your coffee, your cereal, your kid's cup, and you swallow it without a second thought. But here's something that should stop you cold. You are, biologically speaking, doing something almost no other animal on Earth does. Every mammal on this planet drinks milk. That part's not weird. Every single mammal, from a blue whale to a mouse, nurses as an infant. That's literally what makes something a mammal. But every single one of them stops. A baby elephant weans off its mother's milk. A baby lion weans off. A baby chimpanzee, your closest living relative, weans off and never touches milk again for the rest of its life. Except you, except humans. Somewhere along the way, a huge percentage of our species kept drinking milk into adulthood. And not just any milk, milk from a completely different animal. You are right now drinking the lactation fluid of a cow as a fully grown adult human, and your body is actually built to handle it. That should sound insane, and for most of human history it was. Here's the biology behind why this is so strange. Every mammal is born with the ability to digest milk. Babies produce an enzyme called lactase, which breaks down lactose, the sugar in milk, into something your body can actually absorb. But that enzyme isn't meant to last forever. In the vast majority of mammals, including most humans throughout most of history, the gene that produces lactase switches off after weaning. It's not a malfunction, it's the default setting. Once you stop needing milk, your body stops preparing for it. That's why, even today, roughly 65% of the global adult population is lactose intolerant. That's not the exception. That's actually closer to the biological norm for our species. The people who can drink a glass of milk at 40 years old without stomach pain are, evolutionarily speaking, the unusual ones. So how did drinking milk as an adult go from being a genetic glitch to something hundreds of millions of people do every single day? The answer starts around 10,000 years ago, and it's tied to one of the biggest turning points in human history, the domestication of animals. Once humans started keeping goats, sheep, and cattle instead of just hunting them, something new became possible. You didn't have to kill the animal to get calories from it. You could just milk it, over and over, for years. In a world where food security could mean the difference between your children surviving winter or not, that was an enormous advantage. But there was a catch. Most adult humans at that point still couldn't digest milk properly. Drinking it meant bloating, cramping, and diarrhea, which in a fragile early farming community wasn't just uncomfortable, it could genuinely be dangerous. And then, something happened that almost never happens on this kind of timescale. A random genetic mutation appeared, in at least 2 separate populations, one in Europe and one in parts of Africa and the Middle East, that kept the lactase gene switched on for life. Normally, a mutation like that would just be a curiosity, a rare trait that shows up in a handful of people and mostly disappears. But this mutation collided with the exact right environment at the exact right time. In communities that were raising dairy animals, the people who happened to carry this mutation could drink milk without getting sick. And that meant they had access to a calorie-dense, nutrient-rich food source that most of their neighbors couldn't safely use. More calories meant better survival odds during famine. Better survival odds meant more surviving children. More surviving children meant the mutation spread, generation after generation, faster than almost any other trait in the human genome. Geneticists actually call this one of the strongest examples of recent human evolution ever documented. It didn't take hundreds of thousands of years. It happened in roughly the last 10,000, which in evolutionary terms is basically overnight. But here's the part that really changes how you should think about this. Lactose tolerance isn't evenly spread across humanity, because it didn't evolve everywhere. It evolved specifically in populations that had a long, deep history of dairy farming. In Northern Europe, lactose tolerance rates in some populations run above 90%. In parts of East Asia, where dairy farming was never a major part of the traditional diet, tolerance rates can drop below 10%. This isn't about which populations are more or less evolved. It's the opposite. It's a perfect snapshot of how culture and environment can physically rewrite a species' biology in a shockingly short window of time. The domestication of cattle didn't just change how humans ate. It changed human DNA in specific places for specific reasons, tied directly to which of your ancestors happened to be herding animals 10 millennia ago. So the next time you pour a glass of milk, understand what you're actually looking at. You're looking at the physical evidence of a genetic mutation that shouldn't have mattered, in a species that shouldn't be able to digest this, surviving and spreading purely because of a lucky collision between random biology and a very specific way of life. Every other adult mammal on this planet lost the ability to drink milk because they didn't need it anymore. Humans are the one species where a random handful of people kept that ability and then turned it into a global industry, a dietary staple, and for some of us, a glass we drink without ever thinking about the 10,000 years of survival, mutation, and pure chance sitting inside it.